Hi, and welcome to the Guest List podcast. I'm your host, Steve Guest. Really looking forward to having a chat with our guests today. We're spoilt today because we've got two people, not just one, as we normally have. A bit of an intro, if you haven't listened to any podcasts before today's. This podcast has been born out of my book, Top Biller, The Life of a Recruiter. And it seemed like a really good continuation and a platform where I can put as much value and content out there and share the journey with lots of inspirational, motivational guests. I put a post out asking who I should be speaking to within my network. Who would you like to listen to, and who do you feel adds the most value? And my guests today were mentioned more than once, so I'm chuffed to bits to have them on the show today. So a bit of a bio before we get talking. These two individuals are internationally recognised as the leading authorities in business growth and client attraction for recruitment and search businesses. Co-founders of MakeMorePlacements.com. They have a proven track record of helping their clients see substantial profit increases in their businesses. What a great bio. Terry Edwards, Drew Edwards, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here.
It's good to be here, man.
Yeah, really I say we were discussing off air, weren't we? Where I reckon the last time we spoke was probably 12, 14 months ago. And I think in return, it was my first interview on a podcast.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
You know what it was? I hadn't heard of you before, and then your book was just everywhere. Like every single platform, like, who is this guy? And I thought, really loved the sort of the whole campaign you put behind it, the energy behind it. So I remember it well.
It's a strange one, really, because I think when the book first went out there, I didn't expect it to do as well as it was doing and has done. And as I say, we got talking, and I think it's just been a huge journey since then. And to sit now on the opposite side interviewing you guys as part of my podcast, I think is a reflection of seeing what you guys were doing and seeing the empowering journey that you've been on. And I suppose being inspired by it. And it's quite ironic now that I'm sat here talking to you two. So thank you.
Not at all.
Yeah. So the central theme of the podcast is all about high performance. It's about inspirational, empowering leaders, people that go out there and make changes for the better and actually get people to take action and make a difference. In your experience, now you're talking, coaching, mentoring recruiters on an international basis. What do you think is the difference between average and high performing individuals? What character traits do they have that really kind of shine?
Terry,
I'll go for it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I need to put a name to it. Yeah. Terry. We'll go to you, Terry.
Do you know, honestly, Steve, it's a question that we get asked on a frequent basis. What's the difference that makes a difference? And somebody asked me this, and I said, oh, there's so many things. And he asked me another question. He said, what's the one thing you would tell your children then if they wanted to be successful? And I thought, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And I think the key thing that I would say for all the successful people that I've worked with and met over the years is this thing about responsibility. The real key, rather high achievers, they accept 100% responsibility for everything in their life. So just before we came on air, we were talking about our last interview was pre-pandemic. I think we put your podcast out in the February, and of course the What's It hit the fan a month later. And one thing that Drew and I have noticed that, and over the last 18 months or 14 months or so, we've been talking to recruiters all over the world. And what's interesting that some recruiters say it's been a lousy year because of the pandemic. And other guys have said it's been a lousy year because I didn't plan for something like this can happen. And just the difference in that is transformational. Because those guys that are saying it's a pandemic, and let's be clear about it, the pandemic was a bummer. There's no other word for it. It was bloody awful. And for a lot of recruiters, it still is. But those recruiters that suffered during the pandemic, Was it really the pandemic, or was it the fact that their business was pretty brittle before the pandemic, and the pandemic just exposed what was going on? And those guys that said, do you know what, it was kind of challenging, but it was challenging, but we pivoted, we went into a different niche and whatever. They're the guys that seem to have done extremely well. But what they did is like, to put it bluntly, Steve, what's hit the fan, and we just need to do things differently. But they accepted responsibility rather than, it's not me, it's a pandemic. It's not me, it's the market. It's not me, there's other competitors out there. It's not me, I can't find candidates. And I'd say, for me, the big key thing is accepting 100% responsibility. And the moment that you do, you're saying at some level, I can do something about it. But the moment you say it's somebody else, you become the victim. You're saying, I can't do anything about it. So I'd say the key thing I'd share with my kids about, and with anybody about being a key performance is accepting 100% responsibility for everything in your life. Now, I want to be clear, just to wrap this up, it's not easy. That's why most people don't do it. It's not easy to say, actually, the reason that I've got no money in the bank right now is because my behavior 3-6 months ago. It's not easy to do that. It's so much easier to blame the government, the politics, whoever. So I'd say that's the big thing for me, was be accepting 100% responsibility for everything in your life.
It's a good answer. Yeah. It's a good answer, and I completely agree. There's a section in my book actually where it says it's 100% your fault, whether it's good or bad. If you take that responsibility and you sit there and think, how could I have done it better? How could I have changed it if I needed to? How could I see it as opportunity and not a hurdle? And all these things that get put in your way as you progress. You've got to have the ability to see it as a way to move forward, even if it's not the answer you're necessarily looking for. Drew, what would you say in terms of your experience?
I think it can come down to lots of things, lots of different traits. But if I was going to sum up into one word, it would be ego, or the ability to let go of ego. I think when you look at successful people, you can name anybody. What they all have in common is that they've had to, put themselves out there, put their neck on the line in a lot of ways. And we would, just before we beginning of this interview, we're talking about your book promotion. Like you had to push and push and push and really promote yourself. That probably felt really uncomfortable at times. You probably had to do things that weren't, you had to step outside your comfort zone. Probably had to do things where you weren't sure they were going to work. But at the same time, you had to let go of ego, let go of caring what other people thought, let go of your beliefs or preconceptions about what is or isn't going to work without testing it. You have to let go of a lot of that. And every successful person in any walk of life has that in common. They're able to let go of the ego, continue learning, continue improving, continue being willing to fail, being willing to put their neck on the line, being willing to, maybe look silly to some people, but keep pushing, keep going. I think that's, for me, that's the thing that I always look at is can you let go of your ego? Because we were just on a client call just before this, and we were talking about video marketing. Everyone knows the benefits of doing more video, putting more content out there. When you speak about why they won't do it, they give you these fears that are holding them back, and it's all ego-based, all ego-driven. So I think if you can let go of that, that really opens up the path for you to do, lots of other things that, perhaps holding you back.
Yeah, there's so many good points in there, and there's so many different, I suppose, areas of discussion. I think ultimately, if you're a high performer or you're at a point where people look up to you, it also makes you into a target, doesn't it? Because people naturally around you want to drag you back down or say, well, I could do that if I had more time. I could do that if I didn't need to do this. And they'll start picking apart the good bits because they know they're not quite there. And then that can have an effect on your mindset and where you're at. You've got to be strong of character, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry, Terry, were you?
No, just agreeing with you 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's so true. And I think it's one of the lessons I've learned. I'm not a person that necessarily likes to put myself out there, but you've got to get to a point where you're willing to take a risk that it might not work or it might fail. And And I think this is a discussion that keeps coming up, that fear of failure. There's so many fears. There's so many things that hold people back at the moment. And actually, most of it is just a what if, and they never happen. You've just got to kind of go and make it happen, and then you'll see the opportunity. Okay, so in terms of inspirational leaders, people that can get the best out of individuals, certainly in our field and outside of recruitment, what's your experience of seeing just natural leaders, people that can get the best out of recruiters, and just get them motivated to a point? Terry, what's your experience?
I worked for a company called Computer People, and they had a division called St. Martin's many years ago. And one of my first ever manager was a chap called Keith Riley. I haven't been in touch with that absolutely years now, but I've always ranked him as one of the best leaders or managers I ever had. And when I tried to analyse what it was, there was this, he just trusted you. He'd say, this is what we need to do as a team, and this is the role that you play in us achieving this goal. And St. Martin's was the executive search side of Computer People. And he said, I will support you in every way that I can. You got any challenge or whatever, you come back to me, but I trust you. You've heard the same before. He said, you're old enough and ugly enough to do this on your own, but I'm here to support you. And he used to go on about that all the time. And we used to have these monthly meetings where you had to then give your quarterly projection on these monthly meetings. And I mean, I'll never get to, and you go in and being a typical recruiter, if I did really well, I was the dog's bollocks, yeah, well, I'm really doing really well now. But if I wasn't, of course, I'd look for somebody else to blame. It wasn't me, it's the marketing, whatever. And he used to say, and he had this saying, he'd say, Terry, you will either make placements or you'll make excuses, but you can't do both. So you let me know when you come into these meetings, which one. And it was a real sort of good shout, actually, Keith. I couldn't argue with that. And he taught me a hell of a lot, again, about this responsibility. And don't blame other people. Look at what you can do to change things. So Keith, in the recruitment world, undoubtedly, Keith Riley. Outside of that, and I've had my own business for a long time, so maybe you could argue I haven't had many leaders, but whatever your opinion of Manchester United and Alex Ferguson, I don't think anybody can dispute his qualities as a leader. And he undoubtedly he had some great players at some times, but he was able to win the league. I won't deny it. I'm a Man United supporter, but at times we won the league with some pretty average players. You wouldn't look at them and think, wow, that's but he was able to get the best out of some pretty ordinary players sometimes. Now, in fairness, he had the infrastructure and everything behind him. So I admired him because he had this goal to what he wanted to achieve. And it actually was, you're either with me or you're against me. But if you're not with me, that's absolutely fine. I'll ship you out and I'll get somebody. And I admired him for that. And I admired what he achieved. And I really don't believe that there will be another manager that will in the Premiership that will achieve what he achieved. So outside of recruitment, without doubt, Alex Ferguson. Okay, you could argue I didn't know him personally, but just what he achieved as a leader, you just think, wow. And I know as a Man United fan, he set the expectation so high that we kind of want that all the time, and it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But and I've read several books. Yeah, absolute admiration for him as a leader. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Just need to clear my throat. That will get edited out, Terry. Don't worry. Okay. Honestly,
that's what comes of drinking whiskey at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Steve.
I wish. Okay, Drew. Inspirational leaders, motivators. What have you kind of surrounded yourself with over the years? What has inspired you?
What has inspired me? I think throughout different stages in my life and in my sort of journey, if you like, there's been different people who I've learned from. One thing I think is important for anybody is that you always need to be looking for someone who you can learn from. There's always someone, it could be, in a particular area, like, there's some, for example, when you start a podcast, you look at, okay, who's done a podcast before? Who's really good at doing podcasts? I'm going to, follow them more closely, emulate what they've done. So I think you always need to be looking for that. In terms of like what I think makes a good leader, whether that's, you know, a coach like what we do, or you know, a football manager, or, you know, trying to manage a team. I think, you know, going back to Alex Ferguson that Terry was talking about, I think, you know, one of the things that he was good at, and every leader that I've ever seen is good at, is getting to the bottom of the individual that you're trying to lead, getting to the bottom of their why. What is it for them that they want to achieve? Because I think, you know, there's a lot of talk about KPIs, for example, and, you know, some people are really anti-KPIs. And for me, I've always been like, you know, one of the big problems with KPIs, it isn't the KPI themselves, it's that often the manager or the business owner decides what the KPIs are and then sort of shoves them down their team's throat, rather than saying, hey, look, you know, what do you want to, like, working backwards, like, what do you want to achieve? You know, okay, typically to achieve that, here's what needs to be done. What do you want to do? And getting the sort of, you know, if it's a consultant, for example, getting the feedback from the consultant. What are going to be their personal, what are they committed to? What's their why, and why do they want to achieve it? Because I think, you know, especially as a business owner, you can get caught up in your own journey, like why you want to hit a certain figure or why you want to build a certain business. And you've got your team sort of who you're trying to, you know, drag along with you, and you sort of drag them along for your own reasons. And obviously they don't care about your personal why. They care about their own personal why. So I think the more you can sort of find out what that is and use that to motivate them rather than thinking about yourself, is I think that's how you get, you know, everyone that's ever got anything out of me, and I'm including sort of is that they've got to the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to the bottom of what it is for me that motivates me, and that's, you know, when I'm trying to lead people, whether it's clients or team members. So I'm trying to, you know, what is it for you? Why? Yeah, I want you to do this thing, but why? You know, what do you want from it? And getting to the bottom of that, you can, you know, help people drive themselves, really.
It's so important, isn't it? And I think I've always had the idea that I want to be able to lead from the front, and I want everyone on the same mission. If I can get everyone around me to be collaboratively bought into what we're trying to achieve, I think you then have a more powerful route forward than if it's everyone for themselves, and everyone fighting for their own little bit of market share or their own little bit of credence or, I suppose, appreciation. Sorry, yeah. I'm going to have to cough again. Do you know what? I've been all right all day. Hay fever. I was saying to Drew, I've got like a tickle here. And honestly...
fair, whiskey might actually help.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm quite tempted. So once the tickle goes, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Just getting rid of the tickle. So, okay. So over your career, what would you say has been the biggest turning points? Has there been parts where something has failed and something has just gone incredibly wrong, and you've sat there and thought, this is a moment where you have to either grab that failure and make it a positive, to kind of push you forward and achieve what you go out and achieve? Or has there just been turning points where things have worked and it's just made you think, yeah, this is the route for me, this is where I'm heading? Terry, if we start with you.
Yeah, but one of my biggest failures, when I had my own recruitment business, and I relied on 2 clients, and these 2 clients gave us all the business. And I mean, I cringed out the thought, but I kind of relied on these 2 clients, and within a couple of months of each other, they both pulled the plug through no fault of ours. They just, you know, things changed within the business. So the big lesson there was, you know, I was lazy. I won't deny it. It's pure laziness. I had these 2 clients. The conversation I had with myself is, I've got these 2 clients. I've got to look after these 2 clients. You know, I told the rest of the team, we have to look after these 2 clients. We did no business development whatsoever. None because we had these 2 clients that were giving us all the business. So that was a massive lesson and a kick up the butt. Because yeah, we struggled for months after that, you know, trying to get business in. So that was a big lesson. So, you know, not relying on just a couple of clients and always be looking to bring business on. So I can't remember the other part of your question now, Steve. I apologise.
Yeah, it was about things that have either gone wrong and propelled you in a different direction, or you've grabbed it. And the other part was, if there was things that you just think, do you know what, that's gone really well. That is where we are. That's what I want to do.
Right. So Drew touched on this earlier about the ego and about fear, and you know, and we do a lot of work with our clients now about their fears, and you know, one of the big fears is fear of rejection. Fear in itself is often a fear of loss of something, And I have to give Drew a lot of credit. The very first time, I don't know how many years ago this was, 14 years ago, whatever, well, whenever it was. And I was going to do a webinar, and Drew said, what you want to do is you want to promote that on LinkedIn. You know, all the recruiters are on there. And he said, what I'll do is I'll promote it on LinkedIn for you. And I didn't say anything to him, but I just went, shit. Internally, he's like, no, don't do that. Because I had this thing about fear of an element of imposter syndrome, a fear of, criticism, because at the time it really mattered what people thought. And, as you get older and wiser, you realize that other people's opinion doesn't matter one way or the other. And I'd get into spats on LinkedIn more so. This is many years ago, because I was engaging with other people's opinion. And you just learn it really doesn't matter. And so I'll give Drew the credit for going, look, this is what you need to do. And me going, okay. but this discomfort internally going on, which, I didn't share with him for years afterwards, and then the other one is, other people's opinion of you really don't matter. It's just somebody's opinion. So don't try and be all things to all people, because you can't be. A percentage of people, whatever you do, they will not like you. A percentage of the people will be indifferent to you, and a percentage will be fans. And that's okay. And I've come to terms that was a real breakthrough to me going, yeah, that's the way it is. We were talking earlier, we get criticized, for the way we talk too quickly. Americans criticize us because of our accent. Some people say, oh, you don't wear a suit. I remember years ago, a guy said, you guys never wear a suit. That's terrible. And the criticism you get, you think, what the hell?
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. It really doesn't matter. So the big takeaway was just like, other people's opinion of me really doesn't matter.
You've touched on a really good subject there, because I know lots of people that are listening to this today, things like social media videos, putting posts out, just generally talking about what they do and who they do, and putting things out onto a platform that potentially could lead to ridicule, critique, and whatever else, prevents them from doing anything. And it's that overwhelmed feeling. And I'm forever spending my time saying, just go and do it. People are going to try and drag you down regardless, whether they like you, don't like you, and everything else. Just do it for you. Don't do it for anyone else. Don't do it for whatever comments come back. I remember when I first started putting videos out, I had one guy that was commenting on every video saying my jumper didn't go with my shirt. What jumper and shirt are you going to wear tomorrow? The one today, they don't go. And you sat there thinking, what? I've really got that much time?
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous.
Yeah. People are idiots, frankly. But you know what? Funny enough, we were talking about this very thing with my clients just a minute ago. And it was on a group Zoom call. And I asked a question that I can't remember. I still can't remember who it was, but one of my mentors asked me a few years ago. And he was basically like, look, have you ever seen someone post a video on LinkedIn, on Facebook, whatever, promoting their thing, wherever it happens to be, and you've judged it? So you've looked at it and you thought it's a bit cringy, it's a bit boring, you've had a negative view on it and you've been judgmental on it. And, for me, it was yes. And, for all of our clients, I think one said no, not really, but everyone was like, yes. And he said, look, all that's happening, like you're I guess projecting your own sort of insecurities onto them, and that's why you don't want to post videos. And he was like, look, for the next, going forward for the next week, month, whenever you see a video, regardless of what the content is, regardless of how cringy or boring or whatever it might be, the shirt doesn't go, whatever, instead of judging it for that, commend them for actually taking a step and having the balls to actually do it. Like, start just respecting people for doing something you're too scared to do. And then, I started doing it, and suddenly your mindset changes about what videos are and what it means. Because you suddenly start realizing that, actually, anytime someone comments negatively, it's just their own insecurities coming out, because that's how I used to be. And then you start realizing, actually, that, like, regardless, your first video isn't going to be very good. Like, let's just accept that. It's not going to be very good. Let's also accept that, actually, some people are going to judge you for it. Let's just accept it. But also accept that, if you want to grow your business, you want to promote your company, your brand, your personal brand, whatever it happens to be, it's something that you will have to do. Something you have to start commending yourself for it and start commending other people for it. And for me, that was just a massive breakthrough. It was like, suddenly because it really used to bother me, like any negative comment, like, even though some of it's like half funny, like, it's not really a criticism, like your shirt doesn't go. Like, we shouldn't be bothered by something as small as that. It really used to get to me. But when I changed my mindset from looking at you know, actually I've just done something really good just by fucking, oh, sorry, can you swear on this?
Yep.
Yeah, just by,
Yeah.
sorry, just by recording and posting the video, we've actually done something that 99% of people want to do, know they should do, but too scared to do. Like, all that stuff becomes irrelevant. And that was a massive breakthrough for me.
Yeah, it's huge. And I'm on a journey at the moment where I'm really pushing and promoting the idea of personal branding, and the fact that as recruiters, I was taught 15 years ago that it's about me. I'm the difference. I'm the one that's going to go and do that extra few hours and find those CVs no one else can find. The one thing that differentiates me from every other recruiter is me. It's always me, because I'm going to be the one that will do something someone else won't. But 15 years ago, that was done via conversation and a phone call. Today, you've got platforms, social media platforms, that gives you wider reach, bigger audiences, and the ability to go to someone directly more quickly. The ability to post and put videos out is far more powerful now. And you have the ability to grow a key person of influence personal brand is huge. But so few people get it, and so few people act on it. Actually, it can be a game changer.
100%, but I think they do get it. I think they know. You know, you said to anyone like who's in business, like, think it would help if you put more content out. They're like, yeah, I know. They do get it. They're just frightened about it, which comes back to the ego thing. Comes back to, you know, caring what people think. But it's an interesting topic. Like, you know, we love talking about it. Like, just the internal dialogue that holds people back from doing what they know will get them better results.
Yeah. And what do you think is the biggest thing? Fear.
It is. I think it presents itself in different ways, but it is a fear of something. Whether it's again, someone was on a call earlier, like, oh, and I've happened multiple times with clients on my accent. Like, they've got in their head that if I do a video, people are going to hear my accent, and it's like, well, if you ring them, they're going to hear your accent. Like, what's the difference? And I'm like, oh yeah, like, you just build up this sort of complex about it, don't you? Like, why are you?
As I say, the other thing I would add to that is for some people, it's this imposter syndrome. They say, who am I to promote my business or talk about recruitment? I feel a bit of imposter doing it. And that's very common, actually. So, and again, it's all about self-esteem and, you know, and self-worth. But ultimately, it all comes down to your thinking. It all comes down to the Drew talked about the internal dialogue that's going on in your head. I call it your own BS, because often the stuff that's going on in your head is complete and utter BS, you know, and people talk about the fear about picking up the phone and all that stuff, and all that's the internal stuff. And it always makes me smile when people go, oh, I hate selling, or I hate picking up the phone, and I feel awful. And I always think, for you to feel awful, you must focus on yourself. But if you're picking up the phone to talk to a hiring manager, you should be focusing on what's going on in their world and what their challenges are. And if you feel awful about it, you're being quite selfish, because it's not about you. It's about the hiring manager, and understand what's going on in their world, rather than be worried about, you know, what the hiring manager's thinking about you.
It's so well put, and people don't think like that, because I think we almost have it's often talked, isn't it, the self-limiting beliefs. It's the things that you put in front of you that prevent you from doing something. And more often than not, or 9 times out of 10, when you actually do it, you think, well, that wasn't that bad. Why did I not do that sooner? And that is littered within recruitment.
Yeah. Every
and it's a mindset thing, isn't it?
And it's one of the reasons we do so much work on mindset in our coaching. Yeah, sure, we do client attraction, we do sales, are the two core things. But what we also know is that the individuals with the right mindset are the ones that enjoy most success. Because if you ask any recruiter, do you want to be successful? Every single one goes, hell yeah. And then you say, are you prepared to do what it takes? They go, well, yeah. And then you say, well, this is what you need to do. But what we know is 80% of them won't do it. And it's not just in recruitment. You can go to gyms, you know, and, you know, I don't know if you know, but most gyms, most of the money for people that enroll for the gym, but then never use it. But we all know intellectually that we need to drink more water and exercise more. Everybody knows that, but only 20% will do it. And you have to kind of accept and go, well, actually, as a business, we can't convince every single recruiter to do what needs to be done, because we know that 80% say, I want to do that, but won't. But we know that 20% will go, actually, we were on a training call with one of our telesales guys, and we can hear the calls. And He spoke to a recruitment business owner, and this recruitment business owner said, I've been in business for 20 years. There's nothing you can teach me about generating leads. And you think, I can't believe you just said that. But Drew talked earlier about, ego and everything. That's all that stuff going on. He truly believes there's nothing more that he can learn. Well, that's going to stand him in good stead. But that's
bad,
all to do with the stuff that, yeah.
I remember sitting in a seminar a few years ago, and it was a really good seminar. And I'm one of these people that I want to grab knowledge and education. I want to surround myself with people that are in positions where I want to be, or discussing topics that I'm genuinely interested in. And he said the worst 3 words in the English language are, I know that.
Know that.
And it stuck with me, because whenever I'm sat there and somebody's teaching me and my initial brain is saying, yeah, I already know that. Yeah, I know that. You're not teaching me anything I don't know there. The little voice in your head is whirring around. You're thinking, no, come on, sit back, engage. And there will be things that you will pick up on. But if you're already closed off at the start, you've already shut the potential learning down.
Absolutely. And saying I know that is one thing, but it's not the knowing. It's the doing. Because everybody knows we should get fit. Everybody knows that. Yeah. I know that.
And then it's knowing it, and then it's doing it, and it's the difference between like dabbling and mastery. Like, you speak to so many people, and it's like, obviously a big thing of what we teach is business development, sales. Oh yeah, I know. Let's take email marketing for example. Like, we already send emails. So yeah, but how many appointments is it generating you? Because if our clients are getting 20 appointments upwards a month doing this, how many are you get? 5. Well, maybe there's more you can learn. Maybe you're not, and for all I learn and study marketing more than most people. And I know more than most people, at least, most of our clients, should I say, already, but I still seek out and learn new stuff all the time, because there's always more knowledge you can take in, and always something, even if it's not new knowledge, like something that you knew 5 years ago, but you just forgot to do for some reason. Yeah. It's like that, as I said right at the start, ego. Like, the more you can have an open mind and look for the gems. In fact, like, what you said about seminar reminded me. Like, I once went to a seminar, and right at the start, I was similar to you in that I bought a ticket maybe a year previous. Couldn't go to a certain date because my girlfriend had a baby, so they delayed my date, and it was the following year. Right, went to seminar. Thought I don't really want to be here. I was interested when I bought the ticket, and now I'm just sort of here because it's like I should go. And I was sort of sat there thinking I'm probably going to leave early. And then right at the start of the seminar, he said, he asked a question. He said, "Who do you think finds more pearls, the bus driver or the pearl diver?" And everyone sort of goes quiet, looking around, and says, "It's not a trick question. Who do you think finds more pearls?" And everyone's like, "Well, the pearl diver." And he says, "Why?" He says, because they're looking for them. He says, "Right, exactly. So you need to be in this room looking for the pearls, because yes, we're going to probably cover things that you know already. But if you have a mindset where you're just going to be a bus driver, you're not going to find anything. Whereas if you're a pearl diver, you're going to find gems." And again, similar, that's always stuck with me as well. So whenever I go to an event where I'm even if I'm just talking to, being interviewed on a podcast, I'm listening to what you're saying as much as, paying attention to what I'm saying, because, I might pick something up. I think you have to have that mindset all the time, like look for continuous improvement.
I love that question. That will stay with me now.
Yeah,
because I think quite often we can meander through life, can't we? And quite often people will just take each day as it comes. Every day is the same, and you kind of just go through the motions. But actually, from a personal perspective, I don't want that. I want that continual growth. I don't want to ever be in a position where I think I know it all, because the moment you're in there, that's where you stop.
100%.
I love that analogy. So, in terms of where you're at, and obviously the journeys you've been on, who do you feel has been the most influential along the way? Who is it that's perhaps inspired you to a point? Whether this is, it could be obviously famous, well-known people out there. It could just be literary, inspirational people. Where do you find your inspiration? Where do you go to?
On a personal level for me,
Terry.
Go on.
No, Terry.
Actually,
go on.
Okay. On a personal level for me, we've always had coaches as well. always, you know, all the time, the whole journey, we've always worked with coaches, and we're working with a well-known company. They're called Traffic and Funnels, and the two guys there, I meant to block Taylor and
Chris.
That's it. The two guys there, they're both of them. No, actually, I think one's in their 30s and one's a bit older. They're multi-millionaires, and they're two guys that I find truly inspirational. They're what I call their map of the world and how they view things. Yeah, just kind of blows me away. And I listen to their podcasts. I've said I'm being coached on their program now. We have been for some time now. So that on the personal level, they've been a game changer and how I now view the world, because their map of the world is so different, and they take you into their world and go, well, actually, you've got the point there. That is possible. So right now, they're two guys that I just think, wow, truly, yeah, inspiring, without a doubt.
And why are they inspiring to you? What is it that's kind of grabbed you?
There are so many things so that they cover marketing, and I think the biggest thing is what's possible. So what they've done for me on a personal level is broadening the possibilities. It's called the realms of possibility, and they've just made it so much wider than any other time in my life. That you just go, wow, why not achieve that? And I would have said I was pretty driven and pretty ambitious before, but they've really taken it to another level and opened up my eyes to other possibilities, undoubtedly. Yeah,
that's great.
Massive game changers and we've got so many ideas of other businesses we're going to open up and everything. But it's really thanks to them, some things that they've shared with us over the last year or so.
That sounds exciting. Lots of things planned then.
Yeah,
it's good. I think you, for me, like just to add to what Terry said, I think you, and it's like this. It's been various people or various groups throughout, you know, my life, but I think you can't underestimate the power of stepping into an environment that forces you to raise your standards.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be in business or it could be in personal life. So, you know, like you can think you're doing well out of your 5 mates, and you know you probably are compared to your 5 mates, but then you enter a different friendship group, or it could be a mastermind group if it's business, and suddenly, like, you know, where, let's say for example, you're doing 100k a month, and you think, yeah, I'm doing pretty well, 7-figure business, and you meet someone who's doing 7 figures in a month, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually, like, you know, you feel smaller again, and that, you know, that's a business example, but it could be, you know, like I remember sort of in my first school being like one of the smartest in class, and you go to a different school and suddenly like you're not anymore, and it sort of forced you to raise your standards. And so I think for me, there's been lots of people that I can mention, like Chris and Taylor, Dan Kennedy, like people who I've learned from. But I think what all of those people have in common, especially on the business front, they've created sort of mastermind groups where you know, it's not just them, I've entered, and there's been other entrepreneurs or driven people where you look around and suddenly it just forces you to raise your standards. Like it forces you to, you know, even if we go back to what we were speaking about before, like videos, for example, if I'm the only one not doing videos in the group and everyone's doing videos, it's like, right, I need to do videos. Like that's, you know, that's the minimum, you know, 1 video a week, for example, is the minimum I now expect for myself, or this revenue number is the minimum that I expect for myself. And you just, I think like being around the right people, and there's almost too many to name, just force you to level up. So I think it's important to seek out that environment. I think now with technology, the way it is, you can do that. You can
yeah, most certainly. I mean, the introduction of Clubhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
That's certainly a game. I don't spend any time in there. It's one of those things that I've got to either try and get used to or just completely ignore. But it certainly is the platform to do it. And I think there's that saying, isn't there, that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
That's right. I think Jim Rohn, the great motivational speaker, said that you will earn an average of your 5 best friends. And if you surround yourself with 4 idiots, you're going to be the 5th idiot, you know. And you just need to be aware of who you're surrounding with. And the point that Drew made there, and it's the same for our clients as well. They join our group and they're surrounded. Well, we've got solo recruiters that will do $1 million a year, and they go, "What? A solo recruiter?" And we share everything, and they get how they can do it. So we got guys that were coming in that were doing probably 150, and they're saying, "Actually, Terry, I said I wanted to double my income. I now want to do. If other recruiters can do it, why not me? But it's a reflection of the group they're in, because as Drew said, you just raise your standards when you're with guys who are saying, yeah, I want to do 80,000 a month. They're talking about doing 80,000 a month in perm recruitment.
Yeah, I think
can't help but raise standards.
The more you surround, because even like there's people in our group that have raised our standards of what we expect from clients, because that's the one thing I'd say is like get yourself in a group of people, and it can be multiple groups, and it could be with different things like this. You might have a group for your entrepreneurial side, a group for your health and fitness side, like whatever, join a running club, or you have different groups for different things. But I think the more you can sort of put yourself in environments where actually you're the, say worse, but you're the at the bottom of the ladder in that room, rather than being a sort of big fish in a small pond, be the small fish, and I guess learn from people. What can you take from somebody else? What can you give as well? I think you need to give, but how can you I guess leverage other people's experiences, mindset, knowledge, network, and use that to raise your own game.
Yeah, you just made a good point there, Drew.
I was going to say it's the importance of the accountability as well, isn't it? It's fine putting yourself in there, but if you don't make yourself accountable to other people in the group, you don't put yourself in a position where actually you are answerable. You don't tend to then take that action. And I think being in supportive groups where people around you, as you say, are doing the things that you want to be doing, it makes you accountable because you've got to feel part of the group.
And I think also as well, like, competitors, like people in your industry who are doing really good things. So going back to your point earlier, Steve, about the personal brand, I don't really believe in competition because everyone's unique. So I think as long as you're putting yourself out there, any market's big enough, probably too big for you to serve the whole market, right? So if I look at us, for example, like if we're both targeting recruiters, we're different people. There's no matter what happens, we couldn't serve the whole market. And there's people are going to be drawn to you, people are going to be drawn to us, people are going to be drawn to, whoever. But I think you can look at people and think, like, for example, I loved what you did with your book launch. Like, and that's inspiring. So it's like, what, we should do that with our book. We should push it as much as Steve did. Because when we did a book, we didn't really talk about it as much as that. And I think you can sort of take from, even if it's not direct peers, but you can, with the internet now, you can see what people are doing. You can literally see what your, peers, competitors are posting online, what they're doing to grow their business. And you can take inspiration from that rather than being sort of intimidated and threatened by it. Actually, how can you add to that? How can you use that to raise your standards?
Yeah, completely. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
You have to take elements of what people are doing, take the best of bits of everything, and then put your spin on it. It's not cheating. It's not plagiarism. It's not doing something that you shouldn't do. As long as you don't take it word for word and copy.
Yeah.
It's about putting your own steer on it. Yeah, exactly. And as you say, we're individuals. We all have that element of difference. And I've got clients, candidates, mentees. I've got people that some people love the way I work. Some people don't. I don't have best relationships with every single client I work with. I have strong ones with certain clients, not so strong with others. I don't lose sleep over it. It's the way of the world. And I think if we can get out of the habit of thinking we have to please everybody around us consistently and constantly, and actually just get a bit more of a focus on the specifics we're good at and the people that we work with, we'll actually all be bigger and better.
Yeah.
It's such an important kind of shift in the process, certainly of a recruiter, but in the wider world as well. Okay, so in terms of your market, what you're doing, what does the future look like for Make More Placements? You've already said about the fact that you've got potential other things on the horizon. What does it look like? It sounds like it's really positive and
well, one of the things that makes me, I don't know why, I've been in this industry for a long time, but it surprises me is that so many recruiters, two things, they either have a discomfort about selling and there's some discomfort around it, or they don't know how to. And I think one of the reasons they don't know how to is because, if you've got a contingency model, you don't actually have to sell anything. You just have to say, have you got any jobs? Yeah, I'll take that. You're not saying. So one of the things that we've learned with our program, we've always talked about sales and we always coach on sales, but there seems to be quite a market out there for teaching recruiters how to sell. In fact, part of our philosophy is you don't sell recruitment, you sell the solution. So one of the things that we're keen on doing is some sort of mentoring program for recruiters, but it's all going to be around sales. There's this fear and apprehension, and there's some quite negative beliefs about it. Oh, that sounds a bit salesy. Are you trying to sell to me? Like, as if there's some dishonor in that, and but if they feel there's something dishonorable about selling, you can understand why they have that discomfort, because they're then thinking, I'm doing something that's deep down I consider to be dishonorable. They need to fix that, because I think Zig Ziglar says timid salespeople have skinny kids. unless you sell something, you're going to have some challenges along the way, and anybody can get a job order from a hiring manager along with 10 other recruiters. But if you want to get business on an exclusive or retained basis, you're going to have to sell. And especially now, because the market's changing, the cost of entry to become a recruiter is dead easy, as you know, Steve. Just need a computer, a phone, and a table and a chair. I'm a recruiter.
Yeah.
Everybody's entering the market. Most of them can't sell, and they go, well, I won't. I'll work on contingent. I'll get 10 job orders every month. I'll fill 1 or 2 of those. And you can make a good living. There's no criticism there. But because so many others are entered the market, recruiters that have been around for a while are going, what the hell's going on? Before, when I got a job order, it was 2 or 3 of us. Now there's half a dozen. And we said, you may want to sell it then. So it's just you. So that's why there's such a need now for people that can convince a hiring manager to work with them on a retained basis or exclusively. So that's something that we're looking at very much. We want to offer at some stage is some sort of sales mentoring. I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet and exactly how it's going to work, but that's something that we will be doing and offering to recruiters, hopefully by the last quarter of this year.
Okay, there's definitely a need. I think in my experience, I mean, some people are naturally good at sales. Some people have to work at it and understand the ropes and what they should say at certain points and understand the opportunities. I think with 12 months of a pandemic and perhaps a client base that aren't in their offices, they're at home, their situation has changed. They're not necessarily as contactable through reception or through HR. It's put a few extra boundaries potentially in place. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to have a conversation. And I think that puts people on the back foot, perhaps destroys a little bit of confidence. And they think, well, they're not in the office. Why would I ring? I can't get hold of them. I'll just send them an email or a direct message and hopefully they'll respond at some point in the near future. And I think that has had an automatic shift. And I think the mindset then is recruiters or salespeople sit there thinking, I wouldn't want to be sold at. We're in a pandemic. Why would I want to speak to anyone that's trying to sell me something? I'd rather just send them a message. It's a bit softer. It also doesn't put me in an uncomfortable situation.
No chance of getting rejected. Fear of rejection. So
completely.
And
nobody says no
Absolutely.
to me.
Yeah, there's definitely a need there. Definitely. So I want to extend a massive thank you for spending some time with me. For anybody that wants to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to come and find you? Where do you spend most of your time?
Spend most of our time probably. You can find us at our website, makemoreplacements.com. I think you said it in the beginning, but on LinkedIn, Drew Edwards or Terry Edwards, and then also over in our Make More Placements Facebook group, and there's a Make More Placements podcast. Pretty much, if you Google Make More Placements, something
they'll find you at some point along the line. Okay, and I always do this at the end of the podcast, so I'll go to Terry first. But if there was a single piece of advice that you'd like to get out to the listeners, what would that be?
Single piece of advice is this? Single piece of advice I'd give to recruiters. Here we go. The single piece of advice I'd give to recruiters is that your hiring managers don't care about you, how long you've been in business, or anything else. All they really care about is their problem and solving their problem. So your pitch should be about the hiring manager and solving their problem rather than about you.
Very true. Very true, and quite often missed. Drew, what would you put forward?
So what, a single piece of advice to...
A single piece of advice for any of our listeners.
I think yeah, I guess I know it's been a theme for the whole thing, but I'd say to keep raising your standards, keep learning. Again, assuming you want to grow, be okay with stepping outside your comfort zone. That's the only way growth is going to come, and that relates to how you promote your business, how you sell your services, your fee, your terms, everything. So I think, the more you can get, normalize discomfort, normalize pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, the more, just to be very clear, the more failures you'll have, but the more success you'll have as well.
And that's a great place to be as well. And I'm a firm advocate of that. As I say, I've put myself out of my comfort zone consistently and constantly, and I actually enjoy it now. And kind of almost go looking for it.
No, yeah. That's the way to be.
It is. A huge thank you to both of you. Thank you for spending some time with me. And all the best for the rest of 2021.
Steve, thank you very much for having us. It's been a real pleasure.
Yes,
thank you very much indeed. You take care, buddy.